Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Arvada City Council meeting for today, Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. I will call upon Mayor Pro Tem Mormon for the moment of reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. As we celebrate and honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. this week, I ask during our moment of silent reflection that we think about his challenge to us, and that is that we are making history, that we are not being made by history, and that we not accept the herd morality and instead be transformed nonconformists. Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Fresh, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Simpson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon?
Here.
Councilmember Ambrose?
Here.
Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Here.
Councilmember Griffith?
Here.
Councilmember Levison?
Here. Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for January 6, 2026. Are there any additions, edits to the corrections to the record? Seeing none, those stand approved. We have no recognitions this evening, so I will move us into public comment. I have one sign up this evening, and I will ask you to give your name and address or neighborhood as you come forward. Yes, or we'll go ahead and go through public comment, and then if you would like to give public comment, we'll go ahead and welcome you up after the first sign up. If you have a sign up, please give it to Ms. Rush, and she'll pass it up here. There we go. So the first name I have is Mr. John Gerard.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm John Gerard. I live at 11970 West 67th Avenue, and I am here to speak about Indiana. I brought a shirt here, it was left over because I worked on 3F. And what I'm speaking about is a road that's on the National Highway System, and I would ask that the council consider completing within the 4-year term of my almost 4-year term of those council members to complete preliminary engineering, right-of-way exposition, final engineering, and construction within 4 years. And that is my request for council to consider. I think it's doable. We dream big and deliver, and so I would hope that you would consider that in your considerations. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Brett Vernon.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilpersons. I'm here to talk about the Jefferson Parkway. My address is 17802 West 83rd Place. Last city council meeting, I mentioned that Vinci purchased the Northwest Parkway in 2024 for $1.2 billion. We've got a little bit more information on that. They purchased it from a consortium led by Brisa, who had bought the Northwest Parkway in 2007 for $503 million. In 2024 dollars, that works out to be almost $800 million in total investment that they had in that project at the time. That means that when Vinci purchased it, they realized a gain of $400 million on that project. There's a lot of money in the Jefferson Parkway. This could transform Northwest Arvada. You could meet John's request easily. Councilmember Griffith estimates the cost of the Indiana overcrossing being roughly $60 million. That's 15% of that $400 million. Mediations of impacts through Leiden Rock would be a mere fraction of that. I'm sure many of you are thinking, Brett, it just doesn't work that way. And traditionally, it doesn't. But how often have you guys sold a stretch of land for a 100-year lease? How many times is there a freeway that's going to be completed that connects to another tollway owned by the same entity with a 100-year lease? This is completely unique. You have a unique opportunity to be able to do something incredible here. I'm sure it's pretty amazing that somebody from Line Rock would say, you should build it. But you should if you do it the right way. If you have vision, if you have courage, and you negotiate like a badger. That's all I have. Bob, Mayor Simpson has my contact information. I'd welcome to talk with any of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vernon. Next, we welcome Terry Binder.
I hadn't thought that I would speak tonight, but I understand some things that I've heard, and you're going to talk about it later, is 72nd Avenue. And I went to a meeting in December. It was a public meeting of the people that lived along 72nd, and what we were told at that meeting is not what I'm understanding might be happening. And so I'm just concerned what happened in the meantime between December, when they had this meeting, and now. And so I'm here tonight to hear what you have to say about this, because we passed, I think, the bond issue in 2017 or something like that. And I'm also a member of the Transportation Committee, have been for 12 years. And my term is up in April. But this has been something near and dear to me for many, many years. And I was very excited that we were going to do something with 72nd Avenue and widen it all the way to Sims. And I even did a public announcement for Channel 12 on it. And so we passed it. And so now I'm just wondering what's happening here. What happened between December and now? And that's why I'm here tonight. So,
Thank you.
and my address is 6968 Brentwood Court.
Thank you, Ms. Binder. Next, we have James Loftus. Oh, no, Loftus.
James Loftus. I live in the 5400 block of Nolan Street in Arvada. I've been listening to some of the city council meetings via the live stream. And in one of the recent meetings, we were talking about we don't want the park signs to be too gaudy with rules because people don't read them, so we need to inform people. And an example that was given was a guy that has a business truck that can't park in his neighborhood because of his HOA rules. So he has to park at a public park, and he might get towed for that. What we described there is insanity. A guy that can't park in his own neighborhood, presumably a small business owner, has to park in a park because of his HOA rules, but we've made rules now that his car will get towed for providing for his family. It's pretty insane. But what I'm really here to talk about is flock. I was here previously, I talked about flock safety. I had what I think is a good argument against it. And I was at home and I was thinking, well, let me come up with a fictional scenario of flock being abused. Let's say a police officer has an ex-lover or an ex-wife that they want to find out where they're at, right? Well, it turns out I didn't have to come up with a fictional scenario for you. We've got Menasha, Wisconsin, Christian Morales, charged with stalking, police officer. Wichita, Kansas, Lieutenant Victor Hyar tracked ex-wife's driving habits. Sedgwick, Kansas, Police Chief Lee Nygaard tracked ex-girlfriend 164 times and her new boyfriend 65 times. Brazelton, Georgia, Chief Michael Steffman used flock to track and harass multiple individuals. I talked last time about Jamie Milliman down in Columbine Valley, falsely arresting a woman because he used flock and got the wrong information. There's a state bill being considered right now prohibiting law enforcement from using third-party information to track citizens. I don't think you all have made a decision or taken a stance on this. Right now, from my understanding, it is in the Arvada Police Department's budget to simply use flock. You guys got to do something. It's not okay. We can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Derek Hammer.
Hello, my name is Derek, and I live at 13937 West 65th, and I am here to talk about immigration enforcement and the scenes that we're seeing coming out of Minneapolis. It is scary what is happening there, and Minneapolis is being targeted. Colorado is on the list of targets. I do not have any doubt that such immigration enforcement will come towards us as well. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about was we do have a Colorado law here that says that local police cannot arrest or detain based off of immigration detainers. So if there's a federal warrant by a judge, yes, of course, but just an administrative warrant, local police are not supposed to detain or arrest based off of that. One thing that if you go to the APD website and look at their FAQ, one of the things that they say that they can do is in the process of another action that they're doing, based off of a local law, they may ask about immigration status. I don't think that's necessary. I think we should clarify that APD should not just be involved in immigration enforcement at all. This helps to protect the community in a way that allows the police, the local police, the APD to be focused on the safety of Arvada, not of enforcing immigration law and preventing people from trusting them, from sharing information, from helping to solve any kind of issues that are happening in our communities. So beyond just sharing that, the other things that we can do, this is all kind of in some gray areas for sure, in terms of what localities are allowed to do. But things that I would ask you all to consider is, clarifying our APD does not ask for immigration status during their stops, that we consider protecting sensitive locations. People should not feel afraid to go to schools, libraries, city hall, church. These should be places that people feel safe to go to. Any kind of accountability we can have for federal immigration officers in terms of having no masks, being able to be clearly identified, et cetera, would be good. And that's my time, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Grant Walker.
Thank you, Mayor Simpson. Thank you, council members. Whoops, sorry. I participated in the public comment period recently for the Arvada Climate and Sustainability Action Plan. I last week attended a meeting of the Arvada Sustainability Action Committee, or Advisory Committee, I think it is. Very impressive. They're working very hard on the plan, getting it ready to present to you, the council, I think, for your consideration. So I thank you for appointing that committee. I think that was a fantastic move. I support that. I support the plan. I need, and I think we all need, the leadership and the example of our city government. We need encouragement, we need support, and we need a push, because we know, or we certainly should know, that taking care of the environment and our climate will take time, money, personal energy, yes, at times that we would rather devote to other tasks. But this is something we have to do. So make it a bold plan. I thank you. I support you.
Thank you. That's all the signups I have. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment of this evening's agenda and move us. We had one item on the consent agenda. However, it has been requested that that be moved to resolutions for conversation. So I will open R26-006, a resolution authorizing an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between Jefferson County and the cities of Arvada, Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, Golden, Westminster, and Edgewater for animal shelter, dog licensing, and funding to update the dog licensing requirements and provisions related to support of shelter operations. Ms. Morris, I believe you're introducing this item.
I am. Thank you, Your Honor. So since 2007, the city of Arvada has participated in a series of IGAs with Jefferson County and the cities of Golden, Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, Westminster, and Edgewater to fund, operate, and maintain the Foothills Animal Shelter. In 2012, the parties entered into an IGA that formally established the Foothills Animal Shelter and created an annual assessment to fund shelter operations. The parties amended the 2012 IGA in 2022 by executing an amended IGA. In June 2023, the parties began negotiations for a new amended IGA, now identified as the 2024 IGA. The purpose of this resolution is to submit the 2024 IGA for City Council's consideration. The Arvada team thus submits for council consideration R26006, a resolution authorizing an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between Jefferson County and the cities of Arvada, Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, Golden, Westminster, and Edgewater for animal shelter, dog licensing, and funding to update the dog licensing requirements and provisions related to support of the shelter.
I will open it to council questions or conversation. Mr. Griffith.
I'm happy to make the motion if there's no discussion.
No, we don't. I already moved it from consent. So, well, I believe we should probably have a little bit of discussion, or if you would like to make a motion, then we can discuss if there are no questions about the item. Yes, go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. I move that we postpone this particular item indefinitely so that council can learn more information before proceeding.
Perfect. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Griffith, for that motion. I think that we need, before we can make a decision on this item, I think we need to get more information from our staff and from our partners. In particular, we know that Jefferson County has some concerns, so I would like to hear more about those concerns. So I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Council, all votes are cast. All votes are cast. That passes. I don't know why that word was so hard. That passes 7-0, postponing this item indefinitely so that we can gather more information. Thank you very much. We have no public hearings this evening, and we do have a workshop. So I will go ahead and move us into our workshop on West 72nd Avenue Bond Project Update. Mr. Wick, are you introducing this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I am going to introduce this item as we get started here. I want to spend a little bit of time before I turn this over to our Infrastructure Director, Jacqueline Rhodes, and provide you with some background information and some other important information that relates to my decision recommendation to you all about the bond project. So I want to give an overview of tonight's workshop. We're going to be talking about the West 72nd Avenue project in total. Here in a minute, I'm going to talk with you about the decision-making framework which led to my recommendation, the project background, our progress to date, as well as some information related to the cost estimates and the changes that we have recently become aware of that has driven to this decision, as well as a discussion about the next steps. So first, I'd like to start by briefly talking about the decision-making framework. So when we learned about the significant cost increases related to the 72nd Avenue project, myself and the rest of the team started taking a look at what do we need to look at in order to analyze this information and help us make a decision? And as you can see, there's a long list up there that I won't take the time to read to you. I know that you can see all of this, but we took a number of factors into account as we were working on trying to make this decision. So kind of getting to the bottom line, the recommendation that I am making to the council tonight is that we cancel the current underpass project and evaluate other alternatives, such as potentially widening the at-grade crossing. And I'd like to spend a few minutes here talking to you about this. So this project has experienced significant cost increases, which, as I said, Director Jacqueline Rhodes will be talking to you about in more detail in a few minutes. But being responsible for the financial well-being of the city, I bring this decision recommendation to you, which is to cancel the current underpass project. This is not a decision recommendation that I take lightly. Myself, Jacqueline Rhodes, Chris Lesberg, and a few others have worked together on this project since 2019. We have put a lot of time and effort into this project, and in addition, there have been several project engineers over time who have also put in significant time and effort, including Britton Thomas and David Bernard. This team has conscientiously performed estimations over the life of this project, and they have done their best to keep our team and our city council up to date as to how costs are changing over time. Recently, with the latest cost estimate to build the project, the cost of this project has far exceeded our original estimate of approximately $65 million and is now estimated at approximately $137 million. While the city has most of the funds to build this project, it doesn't necessarily mean that we should build it. By building the underpass, we give up other important capital projects and general fund projects, the funds from which would be transferred to pay for the underpass project. We would need to take funding from holding accounts for future capital projects to help fund this, as well as we would need to incur debt to make up the gap. We recently completed and the council approved our 2026 budget. In order to help meet the financial obligation of the underpass, I would need to work with our financial team to restructure the 2026 budget and move approved funds for street maintenance, homelessness, Old Town improvements, and the securing of our IT infrastructure to the underpass project. You may recognize these because there are 3 objectives for 2026. In addition, I would need to work with the leadership team to stop filling position vacancies and likely not fill positions approved in the 2026 budget. All of this would have a significant impact on the general operations of the city, as we would essentially be performing only core services, and some of those at reduced levels of service. By not building the underpass, we can continue with projects and programs that the city has already planned, and we can keep other critical CIP projects moving forward, including key infrastructure projects such as sidewalks improvement, bridge repair and maintenance, street maintenance, and filling key public safety positions in infrastructure in our police department. In addition to continuing the work of the city as I described, I have directed our infrastructure team to evaluate the possible alternatives for meeting the expectations of the bond ballot measure, which requires improving pedestrian safety by enhancing intersections, sidewalks, and crosswalks, and improving driver safety by easing traffic congestion along major east-west roads in the city, specifically Ralston Road between Yukon and Garrison Streets, and on 72nd Avenue between Kipling and Sim Street. We should not lose sight of the fact that the city team has already delivered the Ralston Road project. The team has also delivered 2/3 of the West 72nd Avenue project, namely between Oak and Swadley Court. Both of these roadway projects have substantially improved the intention of the ballot measure by enhancing these key east-west roadways with improved infrastructure. By not building the underpass, The team will continue to find ways to improve this last section of work, Oak to Kipling, and we will evaluate other alternatives, including potentially a widening at an at-grade crossing. Infrastructure projects are fundamentally temporal in nature. What I mean by this is that they have a specific time frame, a specific start and end date, and a defined scope of work. We have seen with this project the specific timeline aspects have been impacted by delays from the Union Pacific Railroad in terms of approving bridge plans, which has led to increasing costs due to inflationary factors. The rationale for a project may also change from its original inception to the time it is completed. In the case of the underpass, the rationale for this project was solid when originally initiated. Enhancing our public safety response, especially from PD, fire, and EMS, and also reducing the delay of sitting idle while waiting on a train to cross the intersection. Our public safety teams are skilled and adept at responding to changing traffic conditions when responding to an emergency. For example, a police officer may be dispatched to a call and recognizes that a train is approaching that could interfere with their ability to get across the railroad tracks before the train arrives, cutting off their east-west access. To resolve this, our police officers are trained to potentially request another officer to assist with a call if they're on the other side of the track, or they may be able to accelerate their response to avoid the train, or they may take another route which could actually delay their response. Our police community stations provide for a different kind of deployment than we saw in years past, which helps officers deploy and be available from different parts of the city. This same is the case with Arvada Fire. Arvada Fire has recently constructed new stations in key areas throughout the city that aid in their response, which minimizes the impact of the crossing of West 72nd Avenue. Would an underpass be a benefit to our public safety teams? Absolutely. Is the benefit worth the current underpass cost? With the ability to deploy our resources differently than we did in the past to address this issue, the benefit just simply isn't worth the inflated cost of the underpass. In addition, there are fewer trains now crossing the intersection than there were prior to the construction of the West 72nd Avenue project. Traffic volume has increased, and when trains do cross the intersection and traffic has to wait, the wait times still exist. Again, the benefit of wait times versus the cost of the underpass is not worth the cost, in my opinion. PD data on accidents in the area show few accidents at the crossing itself. Most accidents in the area are rear-end accidents that likely occur near the intersection of West 72nd Avenue and Kipling, and not at the crossing itself. When evaluating the cost-benefit of this project, I have concluded that the costs outweigh the benefit. We are not alone when it comes to inflationary costs causing projects to be canceled. There are examples across the country where projects have been canceled, delayed indefinitely, or the scope reduced. Inflationary costs and changing conditions impact major infrastructure projects just like we're experiencing here. Other city teams and other city councils have had to grapple with this very same issue of whether to move forward with an important infrastructure project or not. By canceling the underpass project, we can continue to move forward with other important infrastructure projects while we simultaneously continue to evaluate alternative solutions to the final third of the West 72nd Avenue project and look forward to improvements west of the current project. As we evaluate alternatives to the underpass and improvements along West 72nd Avenue, we'll report back to the City Council and to the public regarding the alternatives that our team has generated. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jacqueline Rhodes, our Director of Infrastructure, who is going to take you through more details related to the project, and then will be available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Rhodes.
Thank you, and thank you, Dawn. I'm going to walk through additional details and foundational information for the history of the project and just for the context of those less familiar with the project of how we arrived to where we are today. I want to begin with the 2018 ballot language, which we've already heard some in the audience tonight were a part of supporting this to where we achieved it passing. As Dawn mentioned, the key factors here to improve pedestrian safety at our intersections and driver safety through traffic congestion. Essentially what I wanted to make the point here is that the ballot language does not specifically indicate an underpass to accomplish this. The work completed on the project to date, as well as future improvements along the corridor, will also achieve the ballot measure goals. Backing up to the project benefits, which we'll follow up with later cost benefit and trends. As we're all familiar, West 72nd Avenue narrows abruptly from 4 lanes to 2 west of Kipling, and that creates the bottleneck that we're trying to address. Intermittent and absent sidewalks, many of which we've been able to begin to address as part of the current construction completed to date, create unsafe conditions for pedestrian cyclists. And ultimately, as part of our decision-making framework and how to move forward, we reevaluated the cost benefit. This project has been long in the making, dating back to the 90s when a comprehensive plan identified this project through its transportation modeling. Transportation committees at the time prioritized the underpass as a high priority. And in 2001, the first conceptual designs were prepared for the project. Again, throughout time, through additional comprehensive plan updates, citizen capital improvement plan committees, and transportation planning continued to rank the underpass as a high priority project, and the City Council prioritized that in the CIP. In 2017, preliminary designs were prepared that formed the basis of the 2018 ballot measure that was passed. And in 2019, the team moved forward with a construction manager general contractor approach, hiring both our contractor and our owner's representative to support the design. In terms of the project team, I wanted to pick some of the key players here. I already mentioned that in 2019, the city determined that the project delivery model would be the CMGC, construction manager general contractor approach, some of the key duties shown here. And we move forward with hiring our owner's representative. Our contractor on the project is SEMA Construction, and our owner's representative is Olteg. And again, some of the example duties that they're serving in the current contractor shown here. The design team is Mueller Engineering, and a number of subcontractors also listed. We have many of these team members here with us tonight, and I will be available to answer additional questions. In terms of some of the language that we'll use, we often refer to what we'll call CP1, CP2, CP3. Those are really the phases of construction that were developed as the design advanced. So construction package 1 primarily looked to relocate utilities. And again, that was completed in that 21-22 timeframe. Construction package 2, Swadley Court to Oak Street, was more recently completed. Construction occurred from 22 to 25. And the original concept included the overlapping phases with construction package 3 from Oak to Kipling Street, the most complex and the underpass portion of the project. We talked a little bit about coordinating with the Union Pacific Railroad, the UPRR, throughout the project, and I wanted to focus on some of the more recent timeline here. Beginning in spring 2020, when the UPRR actually approached the city rejecting the underpass design and requesting an overpass. This whole project has required significant coordination with the railroad, resulting in a number of design delays and ultimately cost escalations that we'll talk in more detail about. But I wanted to emphasize that the city has done what it could to closely coordinate with the UPRR throughout the project, including 2 separate PUC applications that were filed when the project stalled at key points to try and bring everybody back to the table, negotiate an MOU or a settlement agreement in terms of how we could keep the project moving forward. Not shown here was the prior coordination with the UPRR dating back to the concept design in 2001, as well as numerous agreements and touch points with the UPRR ahead of this. So let's talk about where we are today, or at least as of mid-December, what's been spent. Shown on this slide are not only some figures of the Sims Street intersection, as well as more of the west end of the project shown in the before and after photos at the bottom of the slide, essentially the west end of the project looking east. But I wanted to summarize how much has been spent on the West 72nd project to date. Design services, including Moeller's contract through all phases of design, is shown there in the $5.4 million. Pre-construction services, this is SEMA's agreement with the city to participate and advise throughout the design development process. That's $742,000. Right-of-way acquisition and negotiations, $5.88 million. Olteg, our owner's rep, spent to date $2.58 million. And the construction costs for the first and second construction packages are shown there. Also, we have agreements with the Union Pacific Railroad for their design reviews, and we have spent $312,000 on that to date. Other miscellaneous costs for the project, including demolition, environmental services, and community meetings, are also shown there. So I mentioned the CMGC process, and a number of points in the process serve as checks and balances. When the contractor brings forward their opinion of probable cost, our owner's representative and design team also help inform an independent cost estimates that kicks off a series of negotiations between the city and the contractor to make sure that all of the modeling and represents what the design intended and represents a fair price. This unfortunately occurred after the public meeting that was referenced in early December. And so the numbers here actually represent a mid to late December estimate that was brought forward to the city as a result of our negotiations. And I just wanted to step through some of the details of this construction package 3 estimate that are shown on the slide. So if we break it down into some of the direct costs, and this is the direct construction components, the labor, equipment, materials, subcontractors that would be performing work under SEMA is shown there at $52 million. The indirect costs, general conditions such as overhead expenses, a field office, supervision and project management, staff, mobilization of materials and equipment, materials testing are shown there in the general conditions line. The contractor fee of 7%, which had been set when the contractor was first hired for the project, is reflected there, as well as other costs, including what we would carry in a risk register. Essentially, a risk register is a systematic process by which we try and anticipate and assign likelihood of risks to the project that would likely occur, and we assign cost and mitigation strategies to those risks. While those could be carried forward as a part of a project, if we realize those risks, we'd have a review process by which we'd release funds from that risk account to perform the additional work. The steel package is also shown there. That was an early procurement item that the council had previously approved for $5.3 million. And I'll talk a little bit more about that steel package in a moment. Some example items that we would carry in that risk register of $5.5 million could be additional schedule delays that we encounter once we start construction. If we haven't adequately accounted for groundwater, dewatering components, as well as differences in the drilled shaft depths that we couldn't fully anticipate in the design. On top of this $80.5 million number, the team would recommend carrying forward additional city contingency, which would carry additional project budget to plan for any other unknowns that could occur once we start construction. So what went into that CP3 estimate? And market conditions significantly impacted this. In the period from 2018, when the ballot measure was approved, to where we were in the end of 2025, when we received the latest construction estimate, shows what we've really experienced on a number of other projects currently on both Ralston Road and other capital projects, significant increases in our construction cost indices. We show an example here from a CDOT published metric of some components that they include in the CDOT construction cost index, which I think is representative here of what we've also experienced. In the second graphic, we just wanted to point out that transportation projects in general have outpaced other general inflation indicators. And so shown here is a national highway index compared to producer price index or consumer price or employment cost index, showing that generally the cost of our transportation and highway projects have outpaced general other inflation factors. This was mentioned by our city manager, but these steep inflationary pressures that we've witnessed are not unique to Arvada. They've affected many of our neighbors and other jurisdictions. Locally, nationally, road and trail projects have had to be canceled, significant scope changes, delays, due to the construction cost coming in higher than what available funding can support. I think even in a recent example of the CDOT Floyd Hill project is a good example of having to adjust for design changes that occurred during design development between 2020 and today. Some very specific unit costs on the third construction package that I can reference, as simple as our concrete walls went up 30% in the unit costs, our aggregate base 26%, curb and gutter 60%. These are just some examples of the unit cost changes that we realized between some of our earlier estimates and the final pricing that was negotiated. Other components that drove the third construction package cost were those related to UPRR delays, design requirements that we realized through the design development process. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit of those examples. I mentioned before that CP3 was originally intended to overlap in sequence with CP2. And with that pause and demobilization that occurred, we realized additional costs in addition to the updated timeline at 42 months currently estimated. This added duration alone added over $10 million to the project cost estimate. The other examples here are just related to the final design requirements. So UPR requirements associated with temporary shoring and drilled bridge shafts added an additional $1.5 and $6 million respectively to that total cost. So let's talk about where we landed with the total cost estimates. And this is the bottom line summary. Compared to our current funding secured, shown here on this slide, and the new total project estimated costs, and I just want to point out, in addition to CP3, there are some remaining items to complete the project, including change orders to the design and finishing out CP2, as well as additional Union Pacific Railroad construction and maintenance agreements that would be needed to complete the project. I also mentioned the owner contingency that we'd add on top of that, realizing a new total of almost $137 million. Relative to our current funding secured of $73 million, that leaves us with a $63 million gap. Again, we mentioned the public meeting in December and the most recent contract approvals for this project in early December. And at that time, we talked a little bit about our financial plan to fund the remainder of the project. At that time, the project was estimated at $97.5 million. And while the teams had been planning and estimating for some additional overages, none of us could have anticipated what the estimates came in at. So we are over and beyond our financial plan and what we had come to and programmed in our financial models. And as the city manager mentioned, we carefully evaluated multiple options. We looked at all of these impacts to other city priorities, and these were very significant, including reallocation of other already programmed CIP costs, addressing some of our wildly important goals for 2026, the use of city reserves, and additional cuts to our operational programs, along with increased debt in order to make this happen. Our city manager also mentioned the updates to some of the benefits of the project, and I wanted to share some updated trends here. In 2001, during the concept design phase for this project, Our daily train crossings were at 18, and daily traffic counts at 10,500. In more recently observed trends from 2020 to today, those train crossings have gone down and the train lengths shortened. So while in 2050, regional transportation modeling has indicated that our daily traffic will go up to 25,000, really the daily train crossings have still remained reduced. And even if we put together estimates of what Mountain Rail or future plans could look like for the UPRR, we're not anticipating those exceeding those 2001 levels. It's also mentioned the crash history at the intersection, and we've shown some updated trends there. The two that have occurred during the life cycle of the project were property damage only. And our city manager spoke about APD's and Arvada Fire's response strategies and how those have changed over time in terms of additional stations being sited, and also the benefits realized in the construction that has been completed to date. Even with the portions of the project that have been widening, increased shoulder access, these have all improved the conditions. I want to take a moment and step back as to what has been done on the ballot measure as a whole and talk about spending, at least as of mid-December. In 2019, $79.837 million was issued. And in 2023, when we began to realize the additional costs associated with both the Ralston Road project as well as estimates at that time for 72nd, we issued the remaining debt to bring us to a total of $87.96 million. To complete the Ralston Road Phase 2 project, what was spent out of the bond funds was over $21 million. And what has been spent to date on 72nd is $40.7 million. With some estimates for interest revenue both today and into the future, we estimate that we have about $30 million remaining in the current bond. So essentially this $30 million can be used to implement what was intended in the original ballot language to continue to improve this section of the corridor, whether it be evaluating feasibility of a widening or what we can complete, or it should be refunded. So for next steps, recognizing what a dramatic change this is since we last met in December, the team has prepared a public open house and scheduled that for February 2nd at the Apex Community Center on Wadsworth. We want to talk to community members about where we're at and all of the details that contributed to the current estimates. In parallel, we want to talk a little bit about what the plan is, at least this year, what steps we need to take to at least take the project out of the interim conditions that we plan to address in the third construction package. So everything from finishing the Oak intersection, working on that entrance to Lincoln Academy, to repaving the corridor. We want to improve as much as we can in the current state to make the corridor safe. And we want to continue our alternatives analysis, so look at other safety improvements and evaluate the feasibility of an at-grade crossing. The team has provided a verbal stop work to all of the contractors working on this project, and following the discussion tonight, we're prepared to provide that written notice to the contracts to begin their termination. And again, we'll be bringing back more information, receiving all of that public feedback in our public open house, and as we advance the alternatives analysis, be bringing that back to the community and to the council to discuss. So we're supported here by a number of the team members who are available to answer any detailed questions you have, and I'd love to take those at this time.
I will open it to the council for questions. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon, you were first.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I guess you had a slide that elaborates on all the challenges and relationship with Union Pacific Railroad. And you made a comment that the work with the railroad began long before what's on here. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I often get questions from constituents about when we talk about the railroad and the delays. If we could have foreseen any of those challenges with the railroad sooner and what our work with the railroad looked like in preparation for this project. Could you talk a little bit more about that, please?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So I have reviewed meeting notes dating back to 2001, 2002 timeframe when the conceptual design plans were prepared. Again, city team members met with UPRR representatives to discuss the grade separation and specifically called out the underpass design elements that should be incorporated. In addition to that, we have engineering services agreements beginning in 2016, 2017, when we began to work on the preliminary design for the project. And could we have anticipated the number of reviews? I think that's a difficult question for me to answer. I think we took steps and action that we could each time we started to experience delays. Everything from speaking with you and reaching out through what political angles we could take, as well as working with our partners at the railroad, escalating with our government representatives there, to filing the PUC application to ultimately try and come to terms to demand action and timelines. But I tried to at least list the key elements here because the design review process can be iterative. It can take weeks between receiving those comments, adequately addressing them, documenting how you address them, and resubmitting. And each resubmittal contributes to the overall timeline. I hope that answered your question in terms of how far back our coordination dates. Mm-hmm.
Just to build on what Jacqueline was talking about with the railroad, when we first started this project, part of our consulting team included individuals who were experts with working with the railroads. And we did that as an attempt to mitigate risk associated with exactly what you're seeing here. And while I do think that that team helped us with that, what was unanticipated is, as Jacqueline was describing, is, we can't control the other side of their review. And there were, here's the bottom line. The railroad did not want the grade separation. So as we go through working with them, challenges related to design and the work that we were trying to do with them just kept continually causing delays. Even though we tried to establish good working relationships with them, we set up an agreement of having regular and ongoing meetings. Jacqueline and I have talked with one of the government representatives from the UP multiple times about the project. So, we tried to take as many steps as we possibly could to mitigate the impact that the railroad would have. In the very beginning of the project, we were calling other cities that had done underpass projects to talk to them about their experience. And we did get some lessons learned from them, but then we also experienced our own as we went through. And it's just one of the pieces that is out of our control, but we try to do as much as possible to mitigate that.
Thank you. Can I follow up with that? So you said we really started conceptual design with them back in 2001, 2002, and then we did preliminary design 2016, 2017, and here we show 2020 is when they reject the underpass. Am I right in understanding that that was really the first time in 2020, after all those years working with them, that we heard that they were going to reject the underpass? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I'll come back for more questions, but I want to allow others.
Councilmember Griffith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really curious about the right-of-way acquisition that has taken place over the life of the project to date. I understand that right-of-way acquisition is always tough, but this particular area had some substantial property acquisition relative to certain requirements with the rail and what would be needed in construction. What happens now?
Thank you for that question. While Much of CP2 has obviously been constructed. Obviously, we have the area for CP3 that we still need to evaluate. So how much would we need to reevaluate for the at-grade is still being determined. But we'll still realize benefits if we're able to implement the additional work between Oak and Kipling and look at widening. In terms of legal requirements, I might turn to our partners from the City Attorney's Office to speak to any legal implications.
Hello, everyone. The city did acquire numerous easements and right-of-way from members of the public that were located along that area. We paid fair value for all of the properties, so we are not at high risk for any type of legal consequences from that. In terms of activating, a lot of the easements are activated by the notice to proceed, so the city still retains right to use those easements depending on when the notice to proceed was issued. And I believe there are no further properties that we need to acquire at this time. But again, if that came up again, we would go through the fair valuation process and fair value market purchase for any property rights that we needed.
Am I correct in understanding that we don't have some legal exposure because the property that was acquired was for the purpose of building and we're potentially not building now?
That is correct. We did issue public proclamation so that we could acquire through condemnation if we needed to. I would say 95% of the properties were done voluntarily through negotiations. There were several of the parcels where condemnation was filed on, but it ultimately settled, so none went the full way.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I have a question. This may have been in the presentation. I certainly appreciate all the effort and detail that was put together for this because there's a lot going on. So if this is already in there, forgive me. The estimate that we received mid-December after the public meeting, what was the previous one that was in the 90s, 90 million something? When was that developed, and was that developed by our consultant or us, or where did we get that previous one?
Yeah, thank you for that. We had been carrying forward a 2022 timeframe estimate that had been developed by SEMA, our contractor at that time. It was a rough order of magnitude estimate that we knew was, we obviously didn't receive final plan approval till late 2025, and so they were working with the design plans that we had at that time. But essentially, we had been carrying forward the financial plans in 23, 24, based off of that prior rough order of magnitude estimate plus some contingency.
Okay. Do you happen to know the contingency? These things range, I know a lot, from that previous estimate.
I don't. 97.5 million is what we had carried forward in our financial plan. And again, while I anticipated some changes, nothing to this level. I'd have to get back to you on how much contingency was built into that.
I appreciate that, and I think this is also in your presentation, but I must have missed it. The original timeline to complete this project, when the bond was initially passed, what did we project?
The timeline has definitely changed over time. I'm checking my notes here to see if I can come up with the best number at the time of the bond issue. 2027. Originally, 2027 was the estimated completion timeframe. And again, as we started to go through the reviews with the UPRR, we continued to reassess that CP3 timeframe, ultimately leading to the schedule that we presented today, late 2029.
Okay, I know, I appreciate that. And my last question, I consider it an open-ended question as we move forward. Staff, what can we do? So we had a meeting, we presented this to the public. We have facts now, and it changed the situation, and we're all coming together to figure out what to do now. What can we do in the future so that we don't put something out in the public and then have to immediately reverse course like this? I know it's an extraordinary situation, but I think it's important that we learn from it at the same time.
I can speak to what we're doing on the engineering side, and then if anyone else wants to jump in about some of the ideas that they have. But in terms of securing funding, it's important that we provide a point estimate. And so that's based off the latest information we have at that time. And while we try and communicate our level of confidence in our estimates in terms of ranges or percent accuracy in terms of our confidence levels at that level of design, ultimately we have to move forward with some level of prudent financial planning based off of that estimate. So what are we doing? We're continuing to do project reviews on a regular basis and reevaluate that risk register to understand how much both owner's contingency do we need to carry in the project, and how do we communicate at least our level of confidence in that estimate so we can be prepared for the range that we might see. So these are all things in terms of using published practices for how we not only prepare our estimates, but how do we communicate around our confidence and accuracy in those estimates that I think we can continue to carry forward so that when we end up with an overrun of this type, we can at least talk about how we arrived here.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Wick, I have a follow-up to that thank you for standing up, that I was going to ask. We cited a number of different things that are contributing factors to this rapid escalation in cost. Do we have other ongoing projects that could be impacted by the same factors, and can we identify and get ahead of those as well?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to your first question, end with your latest one here. So a couple of things I think contribute here is that timing didn't work out in our favor very well. I mean, we obviously held the public meeting, and then it was the next week that we actually got the cost estimate, and that is a function of some unfortunate timing. I think it's really important that, well, I know that people want, including the city council and our public, you want solid figures for how much something is going to cost and when it's going to get built and what the timeframes are. And we understand and we appreciate that. I think, as you can see, we have been actually working on the planning of this project for years. And as we get closer to the project actually being built and cost estimates become more refined and we actually get to what we think the real number is, a lot of time has passed and a lot of conditions have changed. And there's often criticism toward the city related to, well, why couldn't you have known sooner that these costs were going to change? And certainly we would have wanted to have known before we went to the December meeting that these costs were going to be significantly inflated over what we anticipated them to be. I think, in fairness to the team, since I came in as the Director of Public Works and now in my current role, what I've seen is an evolution, especially under Jacqueline's leadership with her team, related to cost estimation and finding better ways to make sure that our costs are as well developed and refined as possible as time goes by. And they've introduced some new tools in order to help them get to that point, which really kind of leads to your last question about what do we do with that in the future. So, as you know, we have a couple of significant public works projects that are coming up. We are worried about this because we want to make sure that we get it right for you, that we get it right for the public, and that we get it right for our budget. And again, I think that the work that Jacqueline and her team are doing in order to make use of best and better practices in order to do cost estimation is really what their aim is. And even at that, we are still going to have risk of variability that is beyond our control. And there's going to be times where, we come back to you to inform you all about here's how things are changing, and usually it's not in our favor. It's usually more costly. I described in my presentation to you about how a number of other cities throughout the U.S. are facing this same issue on these major infrastructure projects. And so, this is the issue of cost estimating on public projects, because they're years in the making. It takes a long time to get there. I described how the team was constantly doing cost estimation as we went along. Jacqueline described the ROM a little bit ago in the 97 million range. It gives you an idea of the challenges that we face with the public infrastructure projects and the challenge related to cost estimation and then what it ends up costing in the end. So when you ask about lessons learned, I would say that it's a constantly evolving lessons learned situation where we are constantly looking for the best ways to do cost estimation. We watch things like the CDOT inflation escalator, the cost of construction. Chris Lesberg has a great tool that he uses to look at material cost increases. We try to use all of those things in order to bring you and the public the best information possible on these very complex projects.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the all-hands approach from staff. I think this is, it's a good thing that we have a meeting on this. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. I know this is not the most pleasant presentation that you've provided for us. I mean, I too am sitting here sweating through my dress shields just listening to the numbers. And I definitely want to express my support of the word estimate. I don't know of many of us who go and get their vehicle worked on and then they estimate one number and they come back and it's a lot more than the estimate. So I think estimate is really the key word here, that everybody should be understanding that we don't have a crystal ball. Gosh darn, if I did, we'd all be million and bazillionaires and I would be sharing the Powerball with you. So I do know that forecasting on this level can be very difficult, and I do want to applaud the team's pursuit in getting us the best and wisest use of estimates of funding and so forth. My one and only question, since I was able to tick off all my other questions, thank you to my fellow council members, is there a cost for the stop work? For example, any kind of demob or monies that are still left on the table? Is there a ballpark estimate for what that cost would be?
I don't have a total number to share with you today, but yes, we will pay for the services rendered through this point in time. And as we continue to clean up the corridor in 2026 and make it safe, the team is right now going through and negotiating that scope of work. So there will be an amendment coming forward for SEMA to complete what work we can from Kipling to Oak, as well as OLTEG's representative services through that work. And the team is working to negotiate what costs associated with the steel package. I didn't mention this earlier, but we were in shop drawing preparation and review. We haven't moved into fabrication of the steel. And so, again, that is something that we're calculating exactly how much work has occurred that we will have to cover.
Yes, well, thank you for that. In this wonderful world of the U.S. economy right now, I'm sure estimating things is very difficult, but I do appreciate all that you're doing and all that the team is doing.
And I want to also just acknowledge our finance team who's worked so closely with us. Again, we've been working to improve our cost modeling and forecasting. So that's been a really important partner for us.
Councilmember Ambrose.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, thank you for this presentation and explanation. I really appreciate staff catching this as early as they possibly could, so that we don't have like a bridge to nowhere kind of situation where we started this thing and then people's lives are disrupted and we don't have the money to finish it, or we have to do some severe financial wrangling that affects the level of service we offer to our community. So I'm glad that you all caught this as early as you possibly could. I wanted to ask, I heard you say that the UPRR, the railroad, was resistant to the grade change. So do you think if you came back with them with a project that's at grade, that whole back and forth with them would be a lot faster?
It's difficult to predict exactly what our working relationship
the
will be
railroad was
moving
gonna
forward
do,
with
right?
UPRR.
I'm trying.
You know, certainly we've already verbally notified them, and we'll have to work through the written portions of this. But pending the feasibility of the at-grade widening, we've already incorporated the UPRR review timelines into what that schedule could look like in the future. Certainly it's not as complex as the structural review of building the grade-separated project, but it still will take time, and certainly our team is going to be conservative in the estimates of what it takes to negotiate with the UPRR.
Okay. And then the other question I wanted to ask is that if this project was changed to an at-grade widening, would it satisfy the requirements of the bond?
Yes.
Okay.
And certainly any improvements that we identify between now and if the at-grade is feasible will also ensure that those meet the purpose of the bond.
Okay. And do we have enough funds to do the at-grade widening as it is with the, I know cost estimates are hard to do, but that we don't need to raise any additional money to do the requirements of the bond with the widening?
The team is working really hard to determine and come up with an updated estimate for the at-grade. So I don't have that number for you tonight. And certainly timeline of being able to get through the approval process and the design process would impact that number as well. Our team is recommending using the remaining bond funds, again, to do the 2026 work and then to fund any additional future improvements. So I hope to bring back a more detailed alternatives analysis for the council to consider.
Okay. And then I see that one of the big changes also is the decrease of rail traffic. So it could be that an at-grade widening is sort of right-sizing to the demand. Have there been any other changes that would say that an at-grade widening actually is better for what, things I'm thinking of public safety changes?
At-grade's always best, and we would realize benefits from the grade separation is always best, and we would realize benefits from continuing forward with a grade-separated project. However, what you mentioned in terms of today's conditions is something that the team is evaluating. So the traffic team has already deployed and started collecting additional data to update their queuing analysis, to start to look at all of the criteria that could inform the full benefits of the at-grade widening. And that'll be something we bring forward as part of the alternatives analysis.
Okay, yeah, I mean, one of the things I was thinking of is that instead of just having all of our police, for example, one place, we have now 4 command centers throughout the city, so it's not like we're trying to get to an emergency and we can't because of that being a choke point.
Absolutely, and I think city manager spoke to that in terms of just some changing conditions in today's time from when the project originally was conceived, prioritized, and developed.
Okay. And then I also know that federally, the Department of Transportation has a program to reduce rail crossings. The Biden administration has funds from the IRA. The Trump administration has like a Safe Streets program that they're trying to do from the Department of Transportation. So you say that the grade separation is very beneficial, but could it be that we, satisfy the requirements of the bond now with the widening and then look to federal funds, since it does seem there's a lot of interest in decreasing rail crossings overall from the Department of Transportation?
I knew this question would come up tonight because the team is constantly evaluating what grant opportunities we have to help offset our costs. We continue to track closely what the federal requirements and position are in terms of rail safety improvement funding. At this time, it's not recommended for the current improvements of the project. Again, all of the right-of-way acquisition, the environmental studies would have to be looked at in terms of their compliance with today's requirements, but it is something that we look at closely with our finance teams and partner with our grants administrators.
Right, so I'm just saying, like, doing what we can now doesn't preclude us from going after federal funds or something later.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Councilmember Levison.
Thank you so much. I wanted to just thank the Transportation Advisory Committee for all the work you've done leading up to the ballot measure and along the way, to all those that attended the public meetings along the way, and the recent one in December, to our staff, and to the residents in regards to the right-of-ways. It's been over 2 decades we've been working on the project, and just wanted to also appreciate what we're learning from this and what you're doing to work on the cost estimates and use the best practices. And then it comes down, I think, to what we can control and what we can't control. So off of what somebody had said earlier with our dream big and deliver, unfortunately, that's sometimes when we have to say no, when we really wish we could say yes. So again, also thanking you for that. My question is, what can the public expect and like the current impact? If I heard correctly, it sounds like we'll have a February 2nd meeting, we'll have a future presentation. We're gonna have to deal with that bottleneck for a bit as we try to find a solution and working within the money we have. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. So we'll spend the time at the February 2nd meeting, similar to tonight, talking about how we got here and talking about what we can do in 2026. Again, the team is scoping exactly what that looks like, including improvements to finishing out the Oak intersection, repaving portions of the corridor, and making what enhancements we can today in 2026. You can also expect us to continue our work. So not only evaluating the feasibility, cost, and schedule of an at-grade widening, as well as westward on the corridor to see what other improvements outside of this ballot issue, which is very specific to this location, but what could we look to continue to prioritize as some of the top projects identified on our transportation system plan.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Well, I appreciate all the questions from my peers. They're awesome, actually. It's probably the obvious, but I'm going to state it just because. A couple things. One, let's make sure if we do any improvements, let's minimize the throwaway improvements as much as possible. You know, still give us the time. But the other thing that I worry about, and it's pretty obvious, I'm sure you'll worry about the same thing, is the longer it takes us for us to figure out what that plan looks like, those costs will go up again. And so I stress on you, Laura, do the right thing, but that time frame needs to come in for something, not 4 years from now, not 6 years from now, you know, something shorter, because my fear is you'll come back here. Now, I may not be here, but you come back here in 2 or 3 years, and they're going to see that same number, and we still don't have anything. So you're going to have to weave this needle through fairly quick, just knowing the unstable environment we are. Maybe we can wish that costs come flying down and we get great things, but we still have to deal with the railroad. And that is still an uncontrollable variable in this project. So these are things you know. I just got to say them out loud to really, really push on the team to try to get that over the finish line, whatever that solution may be. Don't let it drag out, you know, go through your motions and your meetings and so forth, and again, minimize your throwaway costs as much as possible and kind of moving it forward. And if we can't, like I said earlier, if we can't, let's look at the whole corridor and see how we can improve the whole corridor completely all the way to Indiana, because there is another bottleneck there. So, you know, a perfect day would be that the whole corridor got fixed to 4 lanes. But that being said, let's focus on this railroad crossing first, and then see if we somehow get it pushed all the way to further down the road. No
Thank
pun
you for
intended.
stating those for the record. I can tell you our team is thinking putting careful thought to this, because the same concerns are what you just named. In addition to timelines with UPRR, of course, we have the Public Utilities Commission review and approval process as well, and so we'll be factoring all of that into what immediate improvements we can make.
Yeah, and now I'm almost to the point where I don't really care. We just go straight to the PUC on these things. I don't think we should be playing this dance with these folks anymore. We need to just get this addressed and fixed, so we're not the bad guy in this situation. I almost feel like there was a poison pill somewhere in here from UPRR in here. But that all being said, I appreciate the fact that once you identified the issue was there, you took it to the team and the staff and the leadership all quickly into the community. So this is a tough thing for you to do, but you did the right thing. And at the end of the day, we just have to have those discussions, and this is bigger than you all sometimes, and when that's that big, you have to leverage us up here to keep pushing, and you have, but we need to continue. So do we need to go to the PUC and testify? Do we need to call our senators and complain? Do we need to, this is a team effort, not just, the staff team by themselves on this project. This is big for the community, and let us be part of it if we need to be.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you. I have a question and a comment. I'll start with the question. So can you, we have this open house on February 2nd. After tonight, what will be the public notification about this change leading up to the open house and beyond?
Thank you for that. Our communications plan is so critical here, especially given the last information that the community received at that December meeting. So we're going to talk to our bond committee. We have media releases planned. We have frequently asked questions ready to answer. And really will start to push out mailers this week, encouraging community members to attend this open house meeting. So after tonight's discussion, all of that will roll into motion as the key next step.
Great, thank you. So I'll just conclude by saying that I share the disappointment this evening that I know you feel about this, for all the staff time and resources and city resources we've invested in this last part of this project that's led us here to today. I know the residents in District 1 have made a lot of sacrifices for this project to accommodate for it. And many were hoping for some improvements to be made along this corridor. And we have a very difficult decision that we are in now, and you've outlined all the things that have led us here, and appreciate, as others have mentioned, the reevaluation process we're going through here to figure out what is the right next step for our city given the situation we're in. And I do agree that the costs outweigh the benefits at this point, and that's just unfortunate. But all of that, I hope we take this as an opportunity as a community. We talked about the lessons learned, but also to really take this problem and turn it into some innovative solutions, especially for this corridor. So I'm really looking forward to those conversations, and I really hope that at the open house, that's the beginning with the community, to have them involved and be active participants in looking at what those solutions could entail. So I really appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Griffith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo that. I thought there was a really solid point there made by my colleague. And I also wanted to reiterate, we aren't currently at a deficit on this project. We will be if we proceed with it as planned. So there's not a small amount of money that is allocated whether or not it meets the estimate that we were planning on building. And I just wanted to put that out there and double down on what Councilmember Moorman had said. Let's find opportunities to innovate. Let's find an opportunity to deliver something meaningful to the community, as Councilmember Pfeiffer had mentioned and several other council members had discussed. There's money here, and there's money that was allocated from a bond program that's several years old now, and we can do something significant and still meet the intent and the letter of the bond as it was written. So I think all of that, as disappointed as everybody is to a degree, is still something that we can find a path forward on that can be a really good path. So I look forward to the innovation from staff, and I can't wait to join you at that February meeting.
Thank you. So I want to thank my colleagues for all their thoughtful questions and comments. They took all of my questions as well, so that's really great. I'll just share first and foremost, I know how disappointing this is. It's for all of you, for us up here, especially those of us who have been here for a long time fighting for this project. It's very disappointing, and years of effort gone in, and here we sit with factors outside of our control, and we have to make the decisions that we need to make even when they're hard. And this is one of, I would say, probably the hardest realities we've had to face, at least in my 6 years sitting up here. At the end of the day, we have to look not at the factors we had when we considered these projects, but the factors we have before us. Train numbers have gone down. Public safety has adapted to meet the needs. And with the escalating cost, as much as we would love to still have the project, I have to agree that the cost does not demand the result. They just no longer meet out the way that they did even 8 years ago, let alone 20 years ago when this was conceived of. We have to look at that, and it is not responsible to build this underpass right now. We cannot afford to put our city at a deficit across multiple critical projects in order to have a bridge. As lovely as a bridge would be at this location, it does not merit the cost in other departments. City Manager Wick, I thank you for your leadership in bringing this to us. I know that that was very brave. It is hard to say we're going to take a project 25 years in the making, right at the point and go, we can no longer do this. But the gap is too big, and it is not responsible of us to continue forward. So I thank you all for bringing this forward, as difficult as it is. I appreciate this council's wisdom in understanding that sometimes we have to change course and be honest with the public about why we have to do that. And then in addition, I agree with my colleagues. I want to be bullish. We have 70 million in the bank, and I don't want to be here in 5 years' time saying costs have gone up again. We know they're escalating. They're going to continue to escalate. Tariffs have us very concerned, trade wars and other things. So let's see what we can do, even if that maybe means bringing in additional capacity under some of these dollars to help us advance projects faster. I don't know what that looks like. I know you will probably be looking very seriously at that if we can expedite some things. And let's bring something forward that still meets our needs and gets us done in as quickly as we can. Any additional thoughts or comments from the council? I see none. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Ms. Rhodes. And I love your shoes. Been thinking that this entire time. All right, with that, we have no more workshops this
Your
evening.
Honor,
Oh,
just
yes.
real quick before we move on, I just wanted to kind of point out for council, we did this as a workshop, so we don't need a formal vote from council or anything like that. Under our city code, the city team has the ability to terminate contracts. However, I think I know the answer to this based on the conversation. If council were to want to move forward on this project, we would have to have council approval and ideally direction tonight to put some contracts on the agenda that would be necessary for moving forward. So I just want to confirm that my assumption is correct, that council does not want us to put those contracts on the agenda at a future meeting.
That is my understanding. Just some general head thought? No, that is not a vote. We're just nod your head if you're in agreement with the statement.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Morris. I appreciate the button up. All right. With that, I will open the 5-minute public comment limit. We do have one person signed up for 5 minutes, and I apologize if I mispronounce your last name, sir. We have Joe Bogetich. Bogetich.
Okay, now you hear the rest of the story. My name is Joe Bogetich. I'm a resident and property owner in Arvada. And that gentleman right there is Harry Baker, most impacted by the 72nd Street widening. The city has taken a section of his property from him via eminent domain and leased another section. Many of you know of us because in July of '24 we had a meeting with Mayor Simpson, City Manager Don Wick, Director Jacqueline Rhodes, and a host of other Arvada staff. I brought up to them my findings of environmental impact to the underground springs, wetlands to the south, and the killing of hundreds of year-old wetland trees and probable cost overruns of building an underground tunnel, actually a dam. In 2018, the city passed a $64.5 million bond to fund construction. Just a year before, I bought a piece of property just south of the construction site, and I found an unexplainable, continuous 200,000-gallon monthly water flow 24/7, year-round. This is when I met Harry, who had lived there 65 years, and explained to me the presence of underground springs. Because of a faulty 2016 impact study by the consulting engineers along with the city, nothing was known about these springs, and it wasn't until I proved it to the city engineer in 2021 that the city finally recognized the springs and the wetlands. To date, I have not seen an official environmental impact study. In the summer of 2024, Harry and I met with the city engineers, and it was brought to my attention why the road was not widened to Ward and fell just short of Leyden Creek. When I asked why not through Warden, it was stated to me, and I quote, by the engineers, the feds and the big cost of Leyden Creek. It had to do with waters of the U.S. and the floodplain that is recognized at the intersection of 72nd and Sims around the church. Upon further investigation, I found a 2015 master plan study funded by the city that stated, before any 72nd Street widening is done, Leyden Creek improvements should be done to mitigate flooding. What this said is that even if 72nd Street was widened from Kipling to Sims, per the study, it would take another $38 million in 2015 to cross Leyden Creek alone. In the summer of 2024, we had a public meeting at the church at 72nd and Sims. Present was a recently retired railroad official that we told about the springs and the money the city has. He stated from his experience of how the railroad works, it will cost well over $100 million to build a dual-track tunnel, and that's what's being built. On December 19th, 2025, on a walkthrough of the site with Harry, Councilmember Mormon, thank you, and City Engineer Britton Thomas, I asked Britton how much money was left. We already stated that there's only $40 million. This $40 million was used to widen 72nd Street. This was widened 1/2 mile of 72nd Street from Oak to Sims, plus improvements, which leaves $24.5 million. I'd also like to state there's an issue of a dangerous additional runoff down the 72nd from its widening into Leiden and Ralston Creek, which I forwarded to Council Mormon. I don't know if you forwarded everything that I sent you to everybody else, but I would like to do that. I'd also like to say that our water bills have increased because of flood storm water improvements. I have fought this potential environmental catastrophe for 8 years and have said to just widen the road at the tracks and skip the tunnel, and now fix the floodplain. All I have told you is well documented. I have emails, I have documents, I have all the studies and everything. I don't understand how this got to where it's been. And part of this problem, I think, is they didn't realize the water was there back in 21, and maybe they had to go into redesign, because I was told one of the springs they had to take and would put in a French drain to bypass the spring to a David Mathis home. This whole thing is unbelievable. Just widen the road, spend the money to fix the floodplain. I have nothing more to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else at this time who would like to give public comment? Seeing none, I will close the 5-minute public comment and open it to reports from City Council. All right, Councilmember Ambrose.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to give a quick update. AIDA updated their bylaws, and they're excited about working with other agencies on the economic development in Arvada. Recently, City Council had a retreat, and I thought it was great. I learned a lot about working better with teams and other council members, and appreciated the time and expertise offered to us by the consultant that helped us on how we can have healthy conflict and disagree. So I really appreciated the time spent there. I will be attending the upcoming Adams County Leadership Summit that's going to be this weekend, and I'll report back about how that went at the next report back. And it was a huge game this past weekend with the Broncos. Very exciting, and watch the exciting next game by going to visitarvada.org, because there's so many places where you can watch the game with your fellow Arvadans. So plug in for visitarvada.org. And the last thing I'll say is that I wanted to give condolences to the Cowling family. They poured their heart and soul into our community by running the day shelter at the Rising, and they recently lost their son. So I wanted to offer my personal condolences, as they have given our community so much, and it's really tough to lose your kid. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I will echo a huge thank you to our city leadership team who organized the retreat, as well as the city of Fort Collins who hosted us, including the day we spent at Fort Collins City Hall, taking learnings from many of the things that they have done, including around working with nonprofit partners on the unhoused issue, and on their own roads initiatives and some of the things that they have done. So that was excellent. And to my fellow council members, all 6 of you, I personally had a fantastic time at what I would call like training, I guess, for how to be like a super high functioning group of people who can have hard conversations, who don't have to agree, but how do we move forward decisively and thoughtfully without letting petty problems or disagreements get in the way of that. It's one of the best team buildings, or I would say really just workshop on how to be an effective group trainings I've ever been a part of in my entire career, so I was very grateful for that. So thank you to Fort Collins, thank you to our team, and thank you to our facilitator for the excellent work, and to everyone here for the participation. I thought it was great. And I echo also the loss to Karen and Keith Cowling. They are huge contributors to our community, and our hearts go out to them in their time of loss. Finally, my apologies to Adams County. I will not be at their leadership. I will be at Metro Mayor's Caucus Strategic Annual Retreat on Saturday, so that will be great. With that, I see nothing else. Mr. Wick, anything from you?
Nothing else. Thank you, Councilmember Ambrose, for covering my items tonight. I appreciate that. And I'll see you on Saturday. So thank you, everyone.
Ms. Morris?
Nothing for me, Your Honor.
All right, go Broncos. We are adjourned.